So a large majority of the national media jabroni mock draft haircuts have the Minnesota Vikings taking Miami defensive lineman Gregory Rousseau at 14 because it's all about the U, baby. Dane Brugler of The Athletic, Ryan Wilson, Josh Edwards, CBS, Mike Renner, PFF, Eric Edholm, Yahoo, Joe Marino of the Draft Network, Rousseau. And it's almost gotten to the point of groupthink where it's like, oh yeah, Vikings are going to take that because of Zimmer. Cool. It's like how last season, every single mock draft, it seemed like, had the Vikings taking Penn State edge rusher Yeta Gross-Meadows or Iowa's AJ Epinesa. Like, I have to double check the roster sometimes and be like, oh, they here? Nah. And yes, if the Vikings get into the Rousseau business, I absolutely get it. The Vikings defensive line last year was absolute booty. It was cheeks. Gregory Rousseau is a good defensive lineman. Shocker, right? But they're forgetting that the Vikings don't pick again until pick 79 in the third round. And if they see themselves in win now mode in 2021, which I think they do, and you need to hit on a week one contributor at that first pick before you get all the way into the back end of day two. So Rousseau literally has 14 games of college tape. That is not a lot to go off of because that's it. And he was a 2020 opt-out. He would be a monster gamble, but frankly, we do like gambling. Come on, man. So let's talk about the pros and cons of Gregory Rousseau today. So background, 20 years young. Yeah. He turns 21 in April. 6'7", 265, former 3 or 4-star recruit coming out of Champagnat Catholic in Hialeah, Florida, just west of Miami. Was an all-state wide receiver, by the way. Could you imagine that in high school? You're having to defend 6'6", 6'7", Gregory Rousseau. Great. He had 28 catches, 467 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns as a senior. Committed to the Canes because it's all about the U. Redshirted in 2018. Did play in 2 games before he got hurt, so he got that medical redshirt. 2019 as a redshirt freshman. Oh my gosh. Destroyed. Frankly, he had one of the best freshman seasons for a defensive lineman ever. 15 and a half sacks on 46 pressures, mostly from the interior, by the way. And he really was a one-man wrecking crew for the Canes. 54 tackles, forced 2 fumbles as well. He was ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year, first-team All-ACC, second-team All-American, as well as named Freshman All-American, LDO, obviously. Opted out of the 2020 season to get ready for the draft. It's unfortunate because I think that if he would have cut and pasted his production from 2019 to this season with a little bit more technical refinement, I think we might be talking about a top 5 pick. That's how high his ceiling is. Plus him and Jalen Phillips, who transferred in from UCLA and had 8 sacks for the Canes. Could you imagine them together? My goodness, right? So the pros, height is definitely one. 6'7", the kid looks like a power forward out there. Now you like height on defensive linemen. Well, defensive linemen who aren't like 3-techs and nose tackles, because if you're playing on the edge or if you're playing at that 5-tech spot, that usually comes with arm length, which is a huge asset to get into the offensive lineman first. Also, his frame can certainly withstand adding some weight. He's listed at 265. He might be 270, 275 by the combine. I think ultimately, could you get him up to 290? Maybe. And also the quickness. He is absolutely twitched up. He makes some of the offensive linemen that he went up against in 2019 look like they're stuck in the mud. He's going to test insane. I think he'll have great agility, great in the jumps as well. His 40 is going to be on point, and it's just going to be great. Hands, him being a former star wide receiver, his use of hands up front is very mature. That's a testament to the Miami defensive line coaches. So his go-to move is getting off the ball a step slow on purpose, and then wait until the guard sets and gets his hands up, sort of reveals him what he's going to do, and then swatting the hands away, dipping, getting by, and then getting to the quarterback. That's how he got the majority of his sacks in 2019. Cons, he's kind of positionless. So specifically for the Vikings, barring a move to a 3-4 or more creative sub packages, where does he play on the Zimmer defense? Where does he go? Now, yes, it is an absolute, it's an absolute crime to just have your scheme so rigid that you can't infuse talent into it. So if he doesn't have a spot, make a spot for him. I get it, but I think calling him an edge rusher is incorrect. Since he only lined up outside of the offensive tackle, so a 5-tech plus, 190 of his 525 snaps last season, 36.2%. Most of his damage was done inside. So 5 tech, 4 tech, 3 tech, even as a 0. And I think that his best position potentially could be a 3-4 defensive end. So head up on that offensive tackle. And no, I don't think that he would be an Anthony Barr replacement. Even though he did play some stand-up outside linebacker, it was kind of awkward. Rousseau is going to be best served with his hand in the dirt. Also, Con, one-hit wonder. So you do worry about 1 year of major production because the talent is there, yes, but teams, especially earlier on in the season, had little to no tape on him. And the big question is, can you do it a second time, especially in conference when offenses and coaching staff have had a full year of tape and work and just thinking about you? Just like, oh, you'll rue the day. We will get our revenge. There's only one thing next, revenge. Bend, great athlete, but doesn't have that elite bend that you want for an every down edge rusher. That's why I consider him more of just a general defensive lineman. He certainly has enough juice to beat guards on the inside, but him on the edge, like he's not going to be confused with Azeez Ujulari anytime soon, who has phenomenal bend. Also, run defense. So he did have some trouble against the run early in the season against Florida, North Carolina, as well as against Georgia Tech. But the latter are two very run-heavy teams for sure. But he won't be an asset in that department right away until he fills out a little bit. Technically, does have a few nice pass rush moves like we talked about, but does need to fill out the catalog. And also, despite his height and insane arm length, he only has one batted ball at the line of scrimmage. That's kind of weird, right? Now, part of that could be, he gets home so much, he gets pressure so often that he doesn't really have to worry about that. But the skill of when you get stood up at the line, which you're going to at the NFL level, and then you time the quarterback, you get your hands up, and all of a sudden that pass just is incomplete. It's valuable. Absolutely is. So pro comp, I could see him as like a twitched up Eric Armstead, who was the number 17 overall pick to the Niners in 2015 coming out of Oregon. I think Rousseau will test faster in the 40. He ran a 4.87 40 in high school. I think it'll be about the same in the jumps, in agility, TBD what he's going to bench. But I think we're talking about the same caliber of player. And I think it's better to think of Gregory Rousseau as a defensive line weapon, like we mentioned, versus just an edge. I think that's miscasting him because the bulk of his 29 success was on the inside, but he does have the length, the quickness, and raw skills are certainly intriguing, where the raw talent is undeniable. But he is a huge gamble. Like we said, the Vikings at 14 or in the first round, even if they trade down, they are going to be looking for week 1 contributors. So they're not the same player at all stylistically, but if Rousseau could get a early career Aldon Smith type of role where, hey, we're going to work on your refinement, we're going to work on your technique for 2 years before you become a full-time starter, but you come in 30, 35 reps a game and just crush as a pass rusher. We'll figure everything else out on the fly. I think that would be a huge asset for him. I think if Rousseau goes to a team that needs him to play all 3 downs right away, I don't think that's going to work out for him. Frankly, he would be best suited on a team that does have a lot of veteran depth in the front 7. Him going to Washington would be a slam dunk. Him going to Chicago, ugh. Him going to Kansas City, Baltimore, ugh. Green Bay, it would be phenomenal as well. But the question is, would the Vikings be okay with that? Would the Vikings be okay sticking and picking at 14, having, an extremely high ceiling player, but a rotational dude to start, as opposed to a guy who can play 3 downs? Because a realistic scenario could be if Kwity Paye of Michigan and Gregory Rousseau are on the board at the same time. Who do you pick? I would give the slight edge to Kwity Paye, but it is getting closer. It is. And then you look at that natural 3-tech spot, which was the Vikings' biggest hole this year, where you have natural 3-techs like Davion Nixon and Christian Barmore. Even though, is that a little bit too rich at 14? Yes. But also, if you're given a choice, what do you do? What do you do? Or other side of the ball. Of course, the offensive line always needs help. A week 1 offensive lineman like Christian Darrisaw, who would start right away, or a Sean Slater if they're there. I mean, it's going to be a tough decision. It would be a no-brainer if the Vikings had a second-round pick, in my opinion, or more higher-end day 1, day 2 capital. But it's not the case right now. And yes, the Vikings can certainly make moves. They can potentially trade down, but could also be out of the range of Rousseau. I mean, hell, if Rousseau tests out of the roof at the Combine, he might go top 10 anyway, so there might be a moot point. But the Vikings certainly could maneuver up with their 2/3 and probably 4 fourth-rounders. They could get back into day 2 and would take the stake thing out of taking a project in round one. I get it. But whatever happens, man. If Gregory Rousseau is BPA on your board and you're on the clock, go get him. Go get your guy. Because you can never have enough pass rushers because it's a quarterback, stop the quarterback league, and also the Vikings. Maybe this will be the massive overcorrection, because even though you're getting Danielle Hunter back, just how feckless that pass rush was last year, you're like, we don't care. We don't care. We're just getting dudes who can hunt. And I could never be mad at that. Plus, it's all about the U, baby. That's right. But your thoughts. Gregory Rousseau, pros, cons, Vikings, let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work, post on the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.